It's not just a card. It's a way of life. It's access to a world of more. It's not just for dreamers. It's for achievers. Introducing the new UBA Platinum MasterCard, a premium card for those who want more out of life. The UBA Platinum MasterCard offers you an amazing array of perks such as up to 15% off your Avis car rental, exclusive benefits at top hotels, airlines and destinations. Visit a UBA branch near you and request your UBA Platinum MasterCard. UBA, Africa's global bank.
Okay, very good morning to you all, lovely viewers out there, and thanks for being on this session today. We're excited to have you all here, and it's a prayer that we're going to learn some exciting things from this session this morning. This morning we are going to learn, as you can see from my background, acquiring, retaining, and delighting our customers. So, who are your customers? What do they mean to you? Are they important to you? How do they contribute to the growth of your business? And we've got a super gentleman with us this morning. He's going to speak to us on this topic. And I'm excited to introduce to you Stephen Nasser-Boadi, who is the lead enabler at Enable Growth. Steve, thanks for joining us. I think your microphone is muted. I can see you are talking, but I can't hear you. Still off?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Beautiful.
Right. Thanks for having me here. It's good to be here. And welcome, everyone.
Okay. Thanks, Nasser. So today we're going to have a very slightly different session. So normally I've said, okay, and I do have the power before me, but who is Nasser-Boadi, and what about Enable Growth? What's Enable Growth about?
All right, thank you very much. So, like you said, I am the lead enabler at a company called Enable Growth Consult. What we do is we partner with organizations to enable them to leverage technology to grow in terms of marketing and communications mainly. We do traditional marketing as well, but we major more in digital. So that's who I am, and I lead a team of about 8 people within the organization.
Okay, thank you. So this morning we are talking about acquiring, retaining, and delighting our customers. 3 very broad and exciting areas. And of course, I mean, customers are very important to our business. Every business will thrive because of their customers. But for a new business or for UBA customers, how do you think that we can acquire customers? And I mean, I'm talking about acquire as in, let's look at it from new business that is starting, how to acquire customers, and for existing businesses, how to acquire new and other customers.
All right, thank you very much, Henry. I think before we get into acquiring customers, one of the things that we need to stress is that there are no customers if you don't have a product or service that is needed. So you can't have customers without a need. So the first thing you need to do is establish the need. So for example, if you came here in Ghana and you said, oh, you are importing snow ties to sell in Ghana, they won't work. Well, nobody uses snow ties in Ghana. There's no need for that here. There's no market for that. So that's the beginning point. Now, once you've done your research and you confirm that there's a market, there's a need, and there's a market, then you can go back and produce the product or service that's tailored to address that need. When you come back, you are presenting the product or service as a solution to the need that you identified. I hope that makes sense. So that's the starting point. Now, when you come back, that's when you go through a phase we call creating awareness about your product. You're telling the market that you have these products, you have these services available. There are several things you can do. So if we can walk through some of the things that you can do. I've talked about the fact that you need to research and confirm that there's a need, so that customer is there. Then you develop the product and service. But once you've done that, now you need to present your product or service in a way that it's presented as a solution to the need that you identified. You start, for example, most companies will start from a product launch. So this is where you have an event or you have something online and you are launching the product. It's like you are unveiling the product to the market. Now we have this product, like whether it's a banking service or maybe it's a makeup brand. Now we have this makeup brand that's designed and made for this type of skin to prevent you from sweating, to prevent your face from getting oily. You have a product launch, which most of us would have seen. After the product launch, you do what we call normal ads. They don't have to be in this order, but you run ads, for example. So you run both traditional and digital ads. And this is very, very important. Let me stress this. The ads have to be targeted. That is why I always stress that you need to understand your customers. Without knowing your customers, you won't be able to target your ads appropriately. It's one thing saying that your product is meant for everybody across the country. And it's another thing targeting it at specific people who need your product. If you want to target everybody across the country, you will end up spending too much. Nobody has the budget for that. So you have to understand your consumers, understand the people that you are targeting, or we normally call your TA. So your ads should target them. And it should also be customized. Sometimes even location based. So for example, the ads that you may run in Accra will be different from the ads you run in Tamale, for example. Okay. With digital, that's what we call location based marketing. So that what they see in each market will be different from the other. Okay. We can go on and talk about some of the things that you do. Now, once you've done that, then of course the other big thing is these days everybody's on social media, but your content on social media is very, very critical. Because now you have a product, you need to tell stories about your product. You don't have to go saying that I've got this product, come and buy it, come and buy it, come and buy it. Tell stories about your product. How is it used? The usage occasions. What need does it fulfill? Okay. And there, like I often say, your content should be engaging, it should be rewarding, it should offer value, and it should be disruptive. Let me talk about this disruptive part. Disruptive is where, most of us browse on our phones. So you're scrolling from top to bottom. When you get to a particular post, you are forced to pause, look at it closely, and even zoom in to look at it. That's what we mean by it's disrupting your usual flow, what you're doing usually. So good content should do that. Okay. You can bring in some influencers to do some work for you, influencer marketing. This is where, for example, you bring in people who influencers we say are people who can change habits, they can change choices, they can change preferences. So bring in some influencers to help you with that. You can do some email marketing, WhatsApp, do some SMS, even do what we call reviews and unboxing. So you have people try the product and then they will review the product before and create videos or some content for you that you can post. Referrals, activations, and even PR in there. So these are all things that you do to create awareness about the product that you develop or the service that you develop. I hope you're with me. Now, the other part that's important, which we often don't do, is you have to listen, monitor, and engage. Because what the awareness does is that it creates interest. So people start considering your product or service as the solution that they might need. If you don't listen, you don't monitor, and you don't engage, in particular on social media and online, you won't be able to address the questions they have about your product and services. And here, let me say this. For a lot of us who run small businesses, we post content about our products and services on our platforms and we go to sleep. So we abandon our DM. We're asking people to send us WhatsApp. We're asking people to ask us questions about the product or service, but we're not there to engage them. We're not there to listen to them as they ask questions. It's also where, for example, when you start, if you are listening, you begin to appreciate how people want the product, how people want to assess the product or the service. So you can even adapt it in real time. Okay. Then when you've done all these and other things that you may do, you'll be able to convert them. So you make the product and services available for purchase at the right place, right packaging, right price, and all those other things that you need so that people will find it convenient to access and buy your product. That's the process that you go through to acquire new customers.
Thank you, Nasser. So we've had this. Yes, Nasser. So thanks for that, and you have made the points. Now we will get into details on some of the things you mentioned on influencer marketing and drive and all of those things. Last week on the Clubhouse, you and I were having conversations around how to select influencers and how to use them and all of that.
Exactly.
But you made a very important point that without a product or service, you have no customers.
No. And not just any product or service, a product or service that is needed. That's why I call it the need. You need to have the need. Yes.
Okay. So if I identify a need for society, I identify a gap, an area where I think I can go in, how do I make my service or product be seen to be needed by these customers that they would demand my product or service?
You see, you have to engage them, okay? So that you'll be able to appreciate not just a need, but how they need it, okay? So let's talk about, for example, when COVID hit and we were all on lockdown, okay? There was a need, we still had a need to eat our pizza and all the rest, okay? But there was a need for a delivery service, okay? So if you are not running, for example, a takeaway or a courier service, you need to add that to your restaurant, for example. Now, what we needed to understand was that, okay, if you did that, will people be willing to buy it and pay the courier also the additional amount, or they will switch to other food items, or they will switch to other things, they will abandon it because they can't afford it, okay? Now, you need to do all this homework so that you understand the consumer need in detail. It's not just understanding that, oh, there's a need, people want to eat pizza, but how do they even want the pizza to be served, for example? That's what I mean. So you need to be, it's just getting to know your consumers as much as possible. And you can never know them enough. It's a constant thing. It's an always on thing. You're always learning about your customers.
Okay, thank you, Nasser. So when we have retained them, there's the customer journey for every brand and organization. So when we have acquired them, or we have been able to drive the need for them to see the value in our product or service for them, and they have decided to try the product or service, what do we do in order that we can keep these customers?
All right, this is where retention becomes important. See, most salespeople can sell you one product, the first product, but you really want people to come back and buy more. That's the critical bit. That's where a lot of businesses struggle. So retaining them will require you doing a lot of things. The first one is that the product should deliver the results and the experience that it promises. So every product or service promises something. So for example, if it's Coca-Cola, for example, they'll say open happiness. That's a feeling that they want to give you. Does it deliver that? Okay. If again, if it's a makeup brand and it says that if I put on the foundation, I will not sweat, so it will last me throughout the day, I should get that experience. If that is not the experience that I have, I wouldn't go back to order it. So that's the beginning of the retention process. So the product should deliver the results that you want, that you promise people. It's very, very critical. The second part is that you should also understand the usage occasion. How are they using the product? Because if the way they're using the product, you don't deliver the product such that it meets the usage occasion, they would abandon it. They'll go to other competitors who are offering a product in the usage that meets the usage occasion that they want. So that's also very, very critical. And this is where data is super important. Okay. Now, data will allow you to understand and know your customers and know their peculiarities. So for example, let's say a bank, you want to give loans to people, for example. So you give a car loan to different customers, but giving them a car loan alone is not enough. Some banks will go further and partner with some car dealers, so they enable you to find the right car to buy, if you understand what I'm saying. Because giving them the money is not enough. The money alone is not all that they want. The objective is to get a car. So you partner with a car dealer who will then give them the car. So you have to understand them in that way. And I say understand them intimately. You also have to be able to segment your customers so that you can be able to make cost-effective decisions, what we call data-driven decisions about your marketing, for example. Because to retain your customers, you need to do a lot of marketing around that. You need to do a lot of engagement around that. There's something we call the customer lifetime value. So you need to understand which are your high value customers, which ones you need to spend most time delivering to them. So for some of them, you deliver an added service so you can retain them. Okay. You also need to innovate the product or service so that you can retain them. I'll give an example. Before the iPod came, the Walkman was big, but they didn't innovate the Walkman quick enough. So before they knew it, Apple had introduced the iPod, and now nobody talks about the Walkman. Okay, so it's again an always-on process. It's data, it's the analytics that enable you to be able to innovate and be able to stay in tune with what the customer needs are, so you can retain them. And then also you can, with that data, can be able to improve your marketing activity. So there's a little budget that you have, you are able to maximize it and be able to engage and also send your message to the right customers so that you are able to keep them coming back. That's when you are retaining them.
Thank you, Nancy, and thanks for joining us, our participant for this morning. If you have a question or a contribution, please drop it in the chat session. We will put them to our presenter for this morning, Nancy Boadi, who would give us some answers to those questions and address some of our concerns. So, Nancy, thanks. You made the point about some of the things we can do. We've launched a product, and I mentioned the product life cycle earlier on. For small businesses that are still evolving and growing, who do not have all the big budgets to do some of the things you spoke about on traditional advertising and things, what can we do in order to create some attention for our product and get customers to, or people to have information and knowledge about the product so they can come to try us?
Okay, that's a good one. So one of the things I often say is that if you have a product and you cannot afford a big trial, start with sampling your friends and family. I'll give an example. A friend of mine just launched frozen spices. Okay, it's called Cookware Foods. Just launched frozen spices. Now she doesn't have the big budget to do big advertising, TV, radio, and all of that. So what I said to her was, start eating from your church. There's an Imelco in your church. Give them samples to try at home. Okay. Once they try it and they like it, they'll recommend it to their friends and family. So you start growing that way. You also get good feedback from these people that you are sampling in your church, so that if the product needs to be modified or it needs to be adjusted in any way, you can be able to do that. This is also why it's important that when you are trying out a product, when you launch a product, every customer that you engage, politely ask them, can I take your number? Can I get some feedback? So you can call them back, get some feedback. But that feedback is what will enable you to be able to keep the product up to date, keep the service up to date, and be able to deliver a good service and retain them.
Wow, I mean, I've never thought about this. So, I mean, you start up the product, you don't necessarily need a lot of money to go out there to start advertising your product. You can use the people around you within your circles, in church, in your neighborhood, schoolmates, and things to try, and those become your first set of customers that you use for business. Very, very interesting. Now, say
I was going to say, even for big companies like FMCGs and the rest, that's why when they launch a product, they will send samples to their distributors, to their retailers, and all to try them. Okay, when they try them, because people will often go to a shop and say, I want, let's say, this toothpaste, they would have to recommend one to them. If they've tried your product and they know it, they'll be able to recommend it. Another example, I often say this, that don't send waiters out to go and take orders from people at your restaurant if the waiters haven't tasted your food. They cannot recommend the food to people. Most people will go and say, this one, is it good? Should I order this one? What should I order? They ask the waiter, they expect the waiter to be informed enough to be able to recommend one to them. If they haven't sat down and tasted your food, they can't recommend it to your customers. So that's another way of growing it. You start from your local, your family, your friends, even the local people that you work with, and grow it from there. But they are your first ambassadors, they are your advocates.
Wow. Amazing stuff here. Thanks, Nancy. So, moving on from that call, you also mentioned, and we all do know that, I mean, here in Ghana, media spend can be quite a budget. We don't need to go and take a loan to be doing advertising. You spoke about digital marketing. I want to get a bit into the digital marketing space where we see as either free or not an expensive medium. And then we'll touch a bit on influencer marketing that you spoke about a while ago. How do we begin to make or take advantage of social media, which is available to us, which is almost free? And I say almost free because you can't do everything free on social media and expect to get results. How do we, as small businesses, tend to take advantage of these channels on digital media or social media to help promote our businesses?
Thank you very much. And I like the fact that you said it's almost free. Now, the starting point is to create what I call a compelling presence. So be on the right platforms where your targeted customers are active and they are looking for solutions like the one that you offer. It's very, very important. Don't be on every platform. So I often say, do not play the field. Okay, do not play the field. You don't have to be on every platform. Now, on the platforms which are relevant to your business and your customers, you can find them. On those platforms, I say create a compelling presence. A compelling presence is that kind of content where people, when they see your posts, they like it, they want to share it, they see it as valuable, they want to come back for more. Okay, so that's the starting point. Now, what you said is important. Even after you've done that, we all know that on Facebook, for example, organic reach is less than even 2%. So what you need to do is what I call boosting, what people call boosting. And I often say that social media or digital is pay to play. It's not free.
What was organic? You talk about organic reach, which is being 2%. Okay. I don't understand organic.
Okay, organic is where it's not boosted with any money. So that's what naturally is. So let's say, for example, you have 1,000 people on your page. Okay, if you have 1,000 people on your page, 30 people may see it. Facebook will push it out to those 30 people without you paying anything.
So it's not automatic that if I have 1,000 people and I post something, all the 1,000 people are going to see what I've posted.
No. So that's the mistake that a lot of us make. The algorithms that these platforms use are such that they target people and serve your content to them. Okay. So if you have 1,000 people in the platform, like I said, for Facebook, it's less than even 2%. So only about 2% of the people will see it. Now, even those 2% who will see it, they are people who have regularly liked your page. So what Facebook thinks is that, they like a lot of things on this page, so I should show them more of it. You understand what I mean? But they are not going to show it to everybody. If they do that, they won't make money. That's how they make their money. So they are designed to kind of like compel you to place ads so that they can make money, and that's the only way they can serve your content to as many people as you want to see your content. That's why we say they are pay to play. You have to pay to have an active engagement, to be part of the game. If you're not paying, you won't be able to be part of the game.
Wow, interesting. So for all of us who started business and we think that we want to post something on social media or get a lot of followers, that they would go to them. Sorry, I mean, it doesn't work like that. And let me remind you that you are on the UBA Ghana Business Series. We are discussing the topic acquiring, retaining, and delighting your customers. Send us your questions and comments in the chat session, and we'll put them to our resource person to respond. That's it. Before I ask my next question, Kelvin, who is joining us, has asked the question. He wants to know what is the customer. What are there any stages in customer acquisition? Is there do we do from 1 to 2 to 3 before you acquire a customer? What are the stages in customer acquisition, if there's anything like that? All
right. So the traditional one they'll tell you is from awareness, which is where you are creating the awareness that there's a product that exists. Okay, from awareness to consideration, and even after consideration, there's engagement. So consideration is where they now know there's a product and they start asking questions about the product. Okay, and then you need to respond to the questions that they have about the product and services. So that's the consideration stage. And then you have what you call the engagement stage, because as they ask those questions, you need to engage them. Okay, and they can go back and forth before you convert. It's when they've converted that you can now say that you've. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like I said earlier, you cannot start from awareness, because awareness assumes that there's a need for your product already. I'm saying that you first need to understand the need and validate that need. Otherwise, you may go out there creating awareness about a product that is not needed in the market. I'll give you an example. When I used to be at PZ, almost every day people were sitting in front of me presenting different solutions to different things. I'll give you another example. Somebody came to me and said they were going to start a trotro Uber. Can you imagine that? The way we bought trotro, it's not you cannot book. People go there, queue, and then bottle. That's how we bought it. You cannot book a trotro for a trotro to leave at a specific time like you book at Uber. So it's not, there's no need for that kind of service. Or the example I gave earlier, you may find cheap snow tires to import from China. You bring them to Ghana and you find that there's no need for that in Ghana. So there's no need in creating awareness about a product that is not needed in the market. That's the point I want to make. But the stages traditionally will tell you are from awareness to consideration. Even I'll say I'll add engagement in there before you come to conversion. That's a simple answer for him.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks, Kelvin. Keep your questions coming in, and our resource person will do justice to your questions this morning. So now, in your introductory remarks, or when you started and we were talking about all the things about advertising and digital, you made mention of something, influencer engagement or influencer marketing. First of all, who is an influencer? I've got thousands of followers on my Facebook page, on Twitter. I've got good numbers on Twitter. I've got good numbers on Instagram. Does it make me an influencer?
Awesome. So the first thing I'll say is that influencer marketing is not new. I mean, since you wake up in the morning, if your car's broken down, you ask your friends, do you know any good mechanic? And they will recommend somebody to you. So because you ask them because they are what we call like a petrol head. They understand cars. They know they're good mechanic, so they recommend their mechanic to you. So influencer marketing is not new. However, it's become very relevant lately because of two main reasons. One, the conversion rate for traditional ads is very, very low. Okay. Number two, people even use what we call ad blockers. So when you serve ads online, people will not see them. Plus, if you find the right influencers, they can speak authentically about your product and service. So it doesn't sound like an ad. They have an experience with your product. They can speak and they can appeal to the people that follow them. Okay, so that's the starting point. The question you asked, yes, you are an influencer. Everybody's an influencer. The only difference is that some people can influence more. The larger your following, potentially, the more people you can influence. Is that okay? So an influencer is anybody who can change the choices or change or influence the choices of individuals that follow them about brands, about products or services, or even perception about a business. Okay, so that's an influencer.
Okay, so who should I pick as an influencer? Can I pick just anybody? I sell a hair product. Can I pick just anybody to be an influencer or to help me push my products?
All right, so a couple of things. No, you cannot pick just anybody to be an influencer for a hair product, for example. Two things. The first thing you need to ask is, at what stage is your product or your brand? Are you just creating awareness? If you are just creating awareness, then it might make sense. You go and pick a big celebrity. They don't have to know anything about hair. The fact that they just hold a jar of that product and take a picture of it, within minutes, over 100,000 people will see it. So you are creating awareness. People will know that there's a new product in town called HD Relaxer. I hope you're following me. So there, you're only creating awareness. But when it comes to looking for conversion, where you're looking for leads, you're looking for real sales, you need somebody who, one, has decent following. So it doesn't have to be a huge number, what we call like the celebrities or the macro influencers, the big ones who have 500,000 to a million and all those numbers. No, you don't necessarily need them, but you need a decent following. More importantly, they should be people who are perceived by their followers as people who know about hair care or who know something about beauty, who know something about fashion. So when they speak, they are believable. They can also speak authentically about your product or your service. So they may even be able to create content on their own. We all see it when brands create content, they send it to influencers to post. So you look at this, you go to this influencer's wall, you see that post there. You go to the other one's wall, you see the same post. That's syndicated posting. For me, that's not proper influencer marketing. Proper influencer marketing is where the influencer understands the product, they understand the brand, and they're able to create content themselves, be able to post it. I hope that makes sense. So in selecting them, you need to not just follow the numbers, but also people who are believable, who can speak authentically about your product or service. The more people they have following them, the more people that you can convert. But that the numbers shouldn't be the primary, decider on who to select.
Okay, thank you, Nasser. So there's a question that was asked earlier about customers are becoming more dynamic and complicated. So how can businesses, young businesses, new businesses live up to these changing trends about the changing dynamics of customers in the midst of stiff competition that is evolving around us? How do we marry the complication of customers to ensure that we are still able to retain our customers?
All right, that's a good one. So traditionally, we've always relied on research agencies, commission research agency, go and do some research for me, but that takes time. These days with digital, you can execute even a questionnaire, and within minutes you start getting some answers. That's one. Number two is also what we do, what we call monitoring and listening. So there's something we call, for example, social listening, where there are tools, I can mention some of them, TalkWalker, Hootsuite, Social Bakers, all these are used for social listening. Just by listening to conversations that are trending online or conversations people are having about your brand, you'll be able to understand the challenges or how people are using your product and service. So you'll be able to stay in tune with also the customer need. It's very, very important that you listen to that. I'll give you another example. If you take a typical bank, for example, and look in any community, you'll find that we often say that January is the longest month. So you would know that after December, there's a lot of conversation going on various platforms about how to survive through January because we spend all our money in December. Knowing the prevailing conversations, that's when, for example, a bank should be promoting an interest-free overdraft, some of those products and services that you can push out over that period to cushion people to be able to go through that period without having to go through any hardship. So these are things you listen and you understand, and this process should be always on. That means it's not something you do like the research agencies will do for you. They'll go and do the research and bring you a report. That is good, but it has to be constant, daily. And this is where, for example, people we call community managers on social media platforms are very, very important. They don't only have to be responding and be producing reports for you at the end of the month. They should also generate insights that are then sent to the business, to the relevant people in the business, and business decisions are made on those insights that are coming from what they are monitoring and listening to on social media.
Okay. So after, thanks for that. Having done that, though, Nasser, what? Can you share some insights to what some of the emerging trends this year has been on customer engagement and retention? If you have any insights on that.
All right. So, for example, in this year, because of all that happened last year during COVID, for example, people are looking for solutions to be able to mitigate the challenges that COVID brought, for example. Okay. So among others, you find banks, for example, offering loans and other facilities to people at lower interest. They are cutting some of the costs and things like that. Not only that, you find some banks and some financial institutions, as an example, offering support in terms of some guides, how-tos, content, offering free facilities to people so they can go through this period. So COVID has come with its own trend, and if you're able to do that, then you'll be able to retain them. Let's remember that people don't just buy your product; they're looking for solutions, and so the more add-ons you can give them, the more value you're providing for them. So these are some of the things you observe, and if you're offering more value, then you'll be able to retain them. So that's a key one there.
Okay, so talking about COVID and considering what COVID has done to businesses, how do we position our businesses so that we can continue to butter our bread, as Roland, who is joining us, puts this? Because the customer we identify as the key person who drives our business, pays our bills, and pays the salaries. What are some of the things we should do to keep our businesses relevant to survive?
All right. So for example, I use the example of restaurants. Now, because of COVID and the lockdown, restaurants they couldn't operate to start with. Now, even the ones that are operating, they are having to do social distancing. Okay. One of the key things that needs to happen then is that as a restaurant, how are you going to be able to serve more plates without having more people coming into your restaurant? Because you can have all the people coming to your restaurant. So, for example, to stay relevant, a lot of businesses, restaurants, then had to look at delivery service. Some of them are actually operating just delivery service now. Okay. So you look at how can people still experience your product, how can people still access your product without having to breach all those COVID restrictions in comfort, in the safety. Okay, and that's a critical one. So that's the example from restaurants, for example. Same as banks, for example. Banks are now pushing more customers to use online platforms, use contactless cards and things like that, so that the congestion in the banking hall, which will be a challenge, if you want to manage social distancing, will be a challenge. They are having to deliver more solutions via online, so they can use that to stay relevant. Again, you can go on and on about different businesses, but the key thing is to look at how you can still be able to deliver your service, your product, without breaching COVID protocols. Otherwise, they will switch the ones that will give them that. And safety and security is very, very important in this context.
Thanks, Master. So Kelvin comes back again, back to the question or the answer you were giving earlier about influencers, and there are a few more questions from that I will put to you before we proceed. Yeah. Ask, I see most brand influencers as celebrities. Is there any reason why? Is that a trend you see? Is there any reason why? And is there any age limit for brand influencing?
I think so. There are a couple of things. It's an error a lot of us are making in this part of the world. Let me stress this. Numbers do not convert into influence. Okay, so the fact that somebody has 1 million people doesn't mean he can influence all the 1 million people. But what we often do is that we use these people as influencers. Like I said, if all you want is awareness, then you can use them. You're using them like you're using a giant billboard or a TV station that can give you views within seconds. It can give you 100,000, 200,000 views. That's all right. That's all you want. So for a new product, if you can afford it, it's all right to recruit these influencers, these celebrities as influencers. But beyond just awareness, when you need conversion, they need to be believable. They need to have credibility. They need to have authenticity in that area, and the people that follow them should believe them. So, for example, there are some celebrities that I would never follow or buy a car if I see them driving a car or promoting a car, because I know they know nothing about cars. Unless it's just to create awareness that, oh, there's a new car in town. I hope that makes sense. So the key is to find a blend between numbers and people who are also well informed and they can speak authentically about your product and services. That's when you come towards the middle. So sometimes it's better to even use people who have even just 10,000 followers. But the 10,000 people are people who really believe and follow everything that they recommend. So when they are promoting your product to those 10,000 people, you are likely to convert a lot more of them than you would convert from somebody who has 1 million followers. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and so this conversation is big, and I'm not sure if we will have the whole day. We can do justice to this. And,
True, true.
we'll be wrapping up. But Jerry has a very interesting question. When do you decide that you're going to do the promotion by yourself, or you are going to get a third party to help promote your service, or you are going to bring in professionals to help promote your service? And he says, I ask this because we usually say people should take advantage of social media, but this requires some skills which may not be readily available to all. So how do you determine when to promote yourself or to bring in third parties to help you to drive your business or your promotion?
That's a very, very good one. See, the mistake a lot of us make is that because it's easy to create a Facebook page, to create an Instagram account, or even create a website, we feel we can do all our marketing, all our promotion ourselves. Wrong. The fact that you can create or you have a Facebook page doesn't mean that you know enough to be able to do that. I'll give one typical example. I often say to people, that blue button on Facebook which says boost post is the cheapest and the quickest way to give free money to Facebook. But that's what a lot of us do. We hit that blue button and all we get are likes and a few emojis. No, a proper advertiser, somebody who understands the way Facebook works, will go to what we call the ad manager and create an ad. Because what these platforms do, they operate what we call objective-based marketing, objective-based advertising. So you set your objective. Is it video views you want? Is it leads you want? Is it traffic you want to drive to your website? Is it app downloads you want? And this is not something that just anybody can do. So Jerry is right. For most of these things, you need to outsource it to an agency if you don't have the resource in-house. The key thing is that the person who is doing it should be informed. They should be an expert, okay? And it shouldn't cost too much. The good thing, however, is that these days, on your own, there's so much you can learn, you can read. Even this platform we are on now, UBA is giving it free. By the time we leave here, people would have learned a few things that they can be able to do some things on their own if they can't afford it, or be able to ask their agency the right questions so they can get the right results. That's why we do these things. But the key thing to say is that it's not advisable to do things on your own simply because you can create a Facebook page or you have an Instagram account. No, you can't promote it on your own.
Wow, interesting. Okay, thanks, Nasser. There's another question I'd like to put to you from Sifa. Sifa says, how do I manage a situation where the brand influencer engages in a negative act that has the potential to affect my brand? Big question.
That's a very, very good one. Again, one of the mistakes we often make is that we get sucked into the hype about the influencer. So we don't even sign the right contracts with them. So no, we don't even sign contracts with them. So they are allowed to do anything. And it's only when we begin to see problems, or like they've got to do something that you don't approve or it's not in line with your brand, that you start panicking. So the first point I'll make is that you need to have a contract with every influencer that you're going to recruit to work for you. Okay. Now that's also why it's important. And these days, in most markets, they are gravitating towards having agencies will call specialized influencer marketing agencies who sit in the middle and manage the relationship between the influencer and the brand. So they will write up the contract, they will negotiate the fees, do all those things, even train the influencer on how to create relevant content. Okay. So to answer his question, once you shouldn't get to that point, but once you are at that stage, the next thing to do is to bring them in and say to them, no, you can't do this, draw the line. If possible, get them to, if for example, the campaign is ongoing, get them to stop the campaign, because for as long as the campaign goes on and this bad press, these issues are there, people will associate it with them and they will get an association with your brand. So you stop them from doing that. If in the contract, for example, there was an agreement that they are restrained from doing some things, and if they breached it, then obviously cancel the contract. But again, you do it very formally, because remember, these influencers, especially the celebrities, if they get pissed off with just one tweet, they can also bring a lot of bad reputation to your brand because they are pissed off. So even in severing the relationship, it has to be done politely, it has to be done appropriately, so that they agree yes, maybe they were in breach of something and they go peacefully without having to go and put out anything that will hurt your brand.
Okay, thank you, Nasir. So before we get on delighting our customers,
yes,
there's another interesting question that I'd like to put to you very quickly. So there's a point about digital marketing and all of that, but Nasir, what's the role of communication as well as content marketing to the issue we're discussing of retaining our customers? And once we deal with that, we're going to move into the area of delighting these customers that we're talking about. But I'd like to encourage you, or if you have a question for our speaker this morning, please drop it in the chat session or in the Q&A session, and we'll put it to Nasir to answer your questions just like others are doing. So the role of communication and content marketing to the important topic of retaining our customers.
All right, so let me say this. Even after you've acquired the customers and you're retaining them, you cannot, the wrong approach will be to keep saying every day that, oh, there's this pen, come and buy it, it's 10 CDs, come and buy. Now, proper marketing is where you tell stories about your products and services, and this is where communication is relevant. Okay, so communication, Facebook content is communication. The videos we create, for example, and we show them online everywhere, they are all forms of communication. Now, what you communicate about your brand, your product or service is very, very key. If you're going to just talk about product and price, it becomes monotonous. But I can tell stories, for example, about the usage occasion. So, for example, if, let's say, again, because I'm sitting at UBA and we're on a UBA platform, UBA has an Africash, okay, card that enables people to be able to send money across borders. But a lot of people don't know the circumstances under which they would need a card, for example. So part of the communication should be talking about the usage occasions, how you use it. Same way you have a prepaid debit card. That's a big one. In Ghana, most people don't know how relevant a prepaid debit card is. So part of the communication could be about talking about how it gives you security because it's not linked to your main account. To hack people, fraudsters cannot access your main account, for example. It also enables you to be able to control and limit how much you're spending. So the role of communication here is adding more value, creating more value for the product and service, and also telling your story, telling the message that you have, so that with every piece of communication that's out there, the prospect or the consumer becomes more and more convinced about the need to have that product or service. How that makes sense? And for those who are already converted, they begin to see how much value they are getting from the product or services, so they will stay with you. And since we're going to move on to like delighting, they will stay with you until a competitor comes and offers them a better alternative. Okay, so unless you continue communicating about what you're offering them, they will not be able to. You can't justify why they should stay with you. That's basically the point I want to make here.
Now, what 3-4 pointers can you give us on data-driven customer retention actions that we can take to help us get our customers? And we'll do our final and wrap it up. What 3-4 pointers can you give to us on data-driven customer retention actions?
All right. So, for example, the first one is offer discounts for purchases. Okay. Now that means, for example, and by this we mean like making the decisions about what you're doing based on data that's available to you. Okay. So, for example, if you're offering discount on purchases, with the data, you'll be able to tell, well, if I offered 5% discount, this is how much I can grow my revenue, so that it makes up for it, for example. That's very, very key. Also, in innovating services, with data, you can be able to tell even how people are assessing your product. You'll be able to tell how significant pricing, for example, is to your is to the sales that you're generating, and even how it relates to the income level of most people, for example. So that's another data-driven, decision that you need to make. Then also partner with other businesses to bundle and offer relevant services. Okay, with data, you can be able to identify, for example, the how people are using your product again, and the other products and services that they are using it together with. So you can partner with those and you deliver that solution together. I'll give an example. You walk into most car showrooms, and if you're negotiating, they may throw in a free insurance, free, for example, rescue service, all that. We don't see that a lot like in Ghana. But these are thrown in because they know that these are used together. Is that okay? And it's based on data that they're making those decisions. So that's another one that I can share with you. And then also you can use it to also loyalty. Let me give an example. You go to most supermarkets in other markets, and what do they call that supermarket card or the loyalty, the card that you do? With that card, they are able to tell almost every item that's purchased into the home. So they can tell what's in your fridge. That enables them to be able to stock up the shelves because they know how products are moving. Same way, if I can bring it to a bank, if a bank knows how people are using the ATM, for example, in any particular location, they can be able then to tell how they should service that ATM. So when to restock it. If the ATM is on the street where there's a nightclub, for example, it makes sense to make sure that on every Saturday evening they put in more money because people will draw a lot from there. They know the quiet times. Again, last example, there's a reason why a bank may decide that Amakola, they will close the till at 6 p.m. but at East Legon, they will close it at 3 p.m. because they know with the data, they know when people are coming in, what are the peak periods, how much transactions that they are processing over that time. So these are all things that you can do with data. And let me say this, there are very, 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 very good data mining companies in this town. The problem we have is that we don't engage and we don't use them. One that I use and I'm a partner called Super Fleets. We're going to check them out. They can take just your raw data and analyze it for you. So they can even tell you your most profitable customers. So you can focus more on those most profitable customers. Because if you retain those ones, sometimes it's not about the numbers. It's about retaining the right customers and being able to meet your targets.
Thank you very much, Nase. Very insightful thoughts here, and I'm sure that we are learning a few things that we can apply to our business to help us to drive and improve on our profitability and relevance. But Nase, in the midst of all of these, we've spoken about the relevance of competition. How do I ensure that competitors don't take away my customers? How do I ensure that my customers don't move from my brand to other brands, become loyal to me by way of things I can do to make them delighted?
The simple I can't hear you, Henry.
Yes, I can hear you. Nah.
Okay, all right. The simple answer is delight them. Okay. And by delight them, what I mean is offer them additional value. Okay, so let me use a couple of examples. Again, since we're UBA, people borrow from UBA. Okay, but when they borrow from UBA, they're not interested in just the money. They're interested in also making sure that the money is applied so that they can make profit and be able to pay UBA. So it makes sense for UBA, for example, to create a resource platform where they can go. There are tools to create their business plan, to create their budgets, to be able to pay their taxes. That's why, for example, on the UBA platform, you enable people to upload a spreadsheet and be able to pay their employees just with one click. Those are added values that you give them. Those are the things that delight your customers. Does that make sense? Now, this is also where, when it comes to my area, digital, a lot of people are missing the value of blogs, because a blog should be for businesses like yours and for other businesses, it should be a resource center where people will go and find all the tools that will enable them to become more effective at what they do. Okay, I'll give one example. There's a baby brand that I worked on called Cousin's Baby. Now, what we realized was that moms don't only want powders, lotion, and all the rest, but they want everything that will make them better moms. So we created a platform where we recruited pediatricians, midwives, and all those people, where daily we were creating content that would enable the moms to become better moms. So we had a blog that charts the journey all the way from trying to get pregnant until your baby is 2 years. content that covers this whole field. So the point I'm making is that one way of delighting them is offering them additional value. If you are offering this additional value, which your competitor cannot offer, then your competitor cannot just come and brandish 1%, let's say, lower interest rate and steal your customers. No, because you're offering them value that is priceless. And this is where brands, again, I talked about COVID. Beyond COVID, businesses, small businesses in particular, don't have enough money to do everything that they could do, for example, pre-COVID. So now they're going to rely on banks and other businesses to be able to offer them all the tools and the resources they need to be able to bounce back. And the banks and other businesses that are going to win post-COVID are going to be the ones that are able to partner with these businesses and deliver solutions that make them successful, not just the ones that can give them loans. Because, excuse me to say, any bank or any microfinance can give you a loan, but not every bank or every microfinance can enable you to be successful with the money that you take from them in your business.
Okay, that's it. So, that's the point. Delight your customers, keep them delighted, always delight them, and they'll stay with you.
Yes.
So, Francis, very insightful. Thank you for your thoughts here. So, Nasser, before we wrap this up, can we speak to you? If I need to speak to you, get some further consultations from you to help grow my business, or to some of the things you've shared about, I want some more comments. Can we speak with you?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, for our business, what we do is we partner with organizations, big or small, to help them to leverage digital tools to grow in terms of communication and marketing. So you can reach me, if I can give my number. Is that okay?
Yes, if you are comfortable, yes.
No, that's fine. It's 024-836-7114. Okay. Just send me a WhatsApp to start with. Then just say WhatsApp, I listened to you on the UBA business series, and we can set up a meeting, or can take it from there. Alternatively, if you follow me on Twitter, sometimes the easiest way. Just go on Twitter and look for Nasser at NAASCI. Just send me a message and let's start engaging from there.
Thank you very much, Nasser, and thanks to you all for joining our session this morning. It's been very insightful. Time not been a very good friend, but it's been very engaging on some of the skills we can use to acquire, retain, and delight our customers to ensure that we keep them coming back to us for more. It's been a pleasure having you all, and look forward to having more sessions on the UBA Business Series. My name has been Henry Nidote. I'm grateful for your joining us. Thanks for being here. And thanks, Nasser, for joining us for this edition.
Thanks for having me, Henry. Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day, all of you.
Thank you.